Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The Warzone integration update is coming up here soon in early December with Season 1, and with that, we are going to see one of the largest weapon overhaul updates Warzone has ever seen since its inception back in 2020 with Warzone 1. Because of the integration update, including all of the MW2 and MW3 guns, obviously the weapon arsenal itself is expanding a ton. But in addition to that, we're also going to see some meta updates and actual gameplay changes with the weapons that's going to drastically change things across the board, hopefully for the better. You know, on paper, it certainly sounds like it's going to be good in the long run and good for the longevity of the overall metas that we already have had established in Warzone thus far with MW2. So as we get into all the details of this one, if you are new here or if you simply have not subscribed yet, let's change that, because every single day I got you covered with literally everything going on between MW3 and Warzone, whether it's news, updates, meta breakdowns, patch notes, it's all right here. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. And if you enjoyed this video, if you're excited for the integration, be sure to drop a like on it. It is always seriously appreciated. But yeah, as mentioned, obviously with this integration update, we are going to see the MW3 updates pushed into Warzone as we know it now. And while this is going to include all the new MW3 weapons, of course, it's also going to add in the MW3 movement, the new Yerzig stand map, various different MW3 perks and equipment and other gear like that. It's going to be a very, very game-changing update for sure. Maybe the single most game-changing update Warzone has ever seen, but specifically focusing on the weapons, this in and of itself is an update that's also going to be very, very big for a handful of reasons. Not only are we expanding the Warzone weapon arsenal, adding in all the MW3 guns to mix things up a little bit more, we're also seeing all of the attachments now universally available between various MW2 and MW3 guns, just like here in multiplayer, where, you know, we have the various MW2 underbarrels or optics available on the MW3 weapons. You can definitely build out some more interesting setups now that we have what seems like a billion different attachments to run through every time you open up the menu. But focusing in on the weapons themselves, as we know with the launch of MW3 and the carry forward content with the MW2 guns, every single Modern Warfare 2 weapon was updated. Some were updated more than others, some were updated for the better, others didn't really see all that many changes or maybe got worse in comparison because of just how gameplay feels here in MW3. But Call of Duty did detail that every single MW2 gun was going to see changes to their damage values, their damage ranges, the way that some of their attachments work with how much they're increasing certain things or how much they're decreasing certain things, whether that's ADS speed or sprint to fire, whatever the case may be. And various different attachments, their pros and cons were also updated as well. So what you were using back in MW2 and Warzone during that era might have been, you know, a certain compensator with a certain barrel and a certain ammo type, and this year it's maybe not going to be as valuable to be running those three in a combination, right? You might have to change things up because there's more benefits from a different barrel now, or your barrel ended up seeing some changes that made it less effective because it was too good at doing one thing or not good enough, and they changed the con entirely, or they changed the pro entirely, right? So the setups themselves are already going to feel very different. As we've also tested in the past here, if you haven't caught the video seeing how MW2 weapons actually behave in MW3, obviously, one of the more distinct differences in Modern Warfare 2 weapons and Modern Warfare 3 weapons is their behavior, their recoil, the way that the weapons, feel in your hands in terms of movement and raise time, lower time, the weapons sway, the weapons smoke, the visual noise, and how much it's bouncing around when you are holding down the trigger, the visual recoil aspects there in more than one way. There's a distinct, like I said, difference with these guns. MW2 weapons, a lot of visual recoil, a lot of visual noise, a lot of weapon sway. MW3 guns, much more laser beam like, low visual recoil, low weapon sway. And so the MW2 guns, as we've sort of briefly tested in the past, don't seem to have changed in crazy ways. Their recoil patterns are still going to be roughly the same. Their visual recoil is less noisy, there's less smoke, and there's less, shake, but it's still going to be similar to that of MW2, whereas their just core values and numbers there with their damage and their ranges are what's mainly going to end up being different. That in and of itself is going to create that distinction between the two games' weapons. Maybe if you're someone who is really good at control, you'll be able to get away with MW2 guns because they might be, a little bit faster to kill over range with a certain setup. Or if you're just wanting to fry players at 100 meters with no recoil, you throw on that MW3 rifle and you're good to go. But this also creates a much different dynamic in terms of certain weapons even being viable in the first place. And funny enough, we can actually date back to some insider information via Metaphor that was talked about a little bit ago in one of his videos and also posted on Charlie Intel. And this article actually now has more credibility to it, as does Metaphor's insider information, given what we've already seen take place in Modern Warfare 3 ahead of the Warzone integration. So in Metaphor's video from a while back, he mentioned that there was going to be a weapon profile update to all the MW2 guns to keep them in line with the MW3 guns. So they would all be reworked to feel differently in multiplayer in Warzone. And obviously we now know that that is in fact true because it was in the blog and we've already seen the effects in game with the different attachment values and damage values that Modern Warfare 2 weapons have. But more so, we look at the sniping meta. This is something that's going to be insanely different because of the supposed changes that are going to be taking place. Obviously, if you've been messing around with snipers in multiplayer as is, as opposed to MW2, when you now build out snipers in MW3, whether they are MW3 snipers or MW2 snipers, you can have some very different setups that are a lot more effective here in terms of their ADS speeds or their velocity without being punished as much as you were in MW2. And with the Warzone weapons update here and the sort of meta overhaul that we're going to see, Metaphor says that he's heard that snipers in Warzone are going to be returning to that Warzone 1 style, more so the Caldera style, where if an aggressive sniper can have a fast ADS speed and you can run around and sort of quick scope with it, it's still going to be able to one shot to the head, but only in its first damage range, like the Swiss and the Kar 98K functioned back towards the end of Warzone 1. If there's a heavier sniper, like for instance the Imperium or the MCPR, those are still going to be able to one shot to the head as well over longer ranges, but you won't have to burn an attachment on explosive ammo and absolutely kill your velocity. Like, this would basically make it so that there actually is a sniping meta in Warzone again, unlike Warzone 2 and MW2, where snipers were almost too annoying to use. You could use them if you wanted those one-shot kills, but they were very limited into where they'd actually be good. The ADS speeds were of course not all that ideal because of how many other slow attachments you had to put on to gain back some velocity. It just never really existed in Warzone 2, the sniping meta that is. So this overhaul to how these weapons would work would completely change that and make basically all these weapons that we use throughout Warzone 2 that are from Modern Warfare 2 feel like entirely different weapons in some cases. Now, yes, the Hemlock will still feel like the Hemlock, but it might hit like it's more of a 7.62 because of the damage value changes and the range changes that it has for MW3 Warzone. The snipers obviously actually having a spot in the meta could be huge. A lot of the SMGs from MW2 being able to be even more aggressive now with the slight changes to recoil could be pretty significant as well. Of course, though, we also know at the end of the day, Modern Warfare 3 is the focus. That's the forefront of the content here now, and they're going to want those weapons to be a little bit more standout-ish, if you want to say that. Meaning there's probably going to be more advantages to using an MW3 weapon in Warzone versus an MW2 weapon. And while that might not stand true for every single season or for every single meta update, I'd imagine if there's one or two MW2 guns that are like crazy competitive versus MW3 guns, those will probably see, a slight nerf there to bring them more in line with the MW3 guns so that those are more, enticing to go through and buy multiplayer to level them up or to buy the new MW3 blueprints to have them unlocked and ready right away. This has been the case for some time. Cold War dropped, those weapons became more dominant than MW 2019. Vanguard dropped, those weapons became more dominant than Cold War in MW 2019. I would fully imagine the same scenario is going to repeat itself here, because if they can monetize and entice you to spend more money to do well with MW3 guns, that's going to be better for them at the end of the day. But at least with this overhaul update to the meta here, guns from MW2 and MW3 are going to be more competitive than they would have been without seeing these changes take place for MW2 guns. So at the end of the day, that's definitely good news there. That being said, that is going to wrap things up for this one. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be really appreciated. And if you're new here, you want to guarantee you're always up to date with everything going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. And as always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code IMMORTAL for a discount on all Gamer Advantage, G Fuel, and Control Freak products, and the links for all those can be found down below. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.